What's going on, people? It's your boy Tony G, back at y'all again with another one. Today I want to come to y'all, talk to y'all about something important. You know, somebody reached out to me not too long ago. It was in reference to one of my partners, one of my homeboys. And I'm gonna be careful not to put their business out there. It's not about putting their business out there. So, it's more so to shed some light on something that we should be done with at this stage. But it was about a friend that I've had, a friend that I've come in contact with, over the years. We haven't really spoken or talked in several years. It's not because anything happened. It's, as you grow up, you grow apart sometimes from different individuals. Y'all life endeavors and things of that nature take y'all on different journeys. So that's more so our story. Our story meaning this particular guy and myself. We just as I grew up, I built and established a family and, moved forward. We was at different places in our lives, different things that we wanted in our lives and things of that nature. But nevertheless, one of his exes reached out to me. She was a mutual friend between both of ours. I know her, my wife even know her, but nevertheless, she had reached out to me with regard to him and his relationship with their sons. And that's what today's order of business is. Well, the first order of business is and always is building leaders and creating king's operation by building national development over generations. But what I want to speak to today is some of the things that she was, expressing in there about how he haven't really been much of a father to his sons. He haven't been much of a father to his sons. Haven't really been in his sons' lives consistently. Now again, I haven't really spoken to him in years, so I don't know, the basis of consistency, what she means, him being consistent. I would imagine that it's little to no time being spent for her to even reach out and, bring that to my attention. And she wasn't bringing it to my attention to bash or belittle or degrade him. It was more so her knowing or believing the type of person that I am, her reaching out to say, can you at least say something to him? Speak to him, talk to him, holler at him, just say something to him. Oftentimes, women get angry, they get bitter even sometimes. And I believe she's probably reached all of those different points with him at one point or another, but in the same sense, what I want to be understood, and I want her to understand this as well. If she truly didn't care or have truly given up on him being in their lives, she wouldn't even have took her time to reach out to say something about it. Now, I'm not going to harp on their business too much, but what I will do is speak to that. Men, the first thing is you are less than a man. Point blank, period. You are less than a man if you refuse to be in your kids' lives. You are less than a man if you refuse to do your duty. You don't just have a duty. You have a responsibility to be in your kids' lives. It's an absolute must that you're in their lives. It's an absolute must, dads, that we are in our sons' lives. Forget about that. It's an absolute must that we are in our kids' lives, whether girl or boy. 1, 2, 3, or 15 of them. That's your duty. It's your responsibility as a man. You are less than a man if you fail to do so. You are less than a man if you don't put your best foot forward. And I know, women oftentimes can be on some spiteful, hateful, evil things with regard to kids. I know it, especially when you're in a relationship or it's been a failed relationship. The two parents are no longer together and y'all trying y'all best to co-parent. I know how sometimes women can be very spiteful. I get it. And women, you ought not make it hard for a man to be in his children's life. You ought not try to set all these rules and regulations and stipulations on when, where, how, and why he can and when he can be in those kids' lives, and the manner in which he can be in those kids' lives, and who he can bring around and be around. And you can't set the entire tone and expect for a grown man to just march a step to your beat that you set forth. But men, even if you got to go through hell and high water, even if you got to go through hell and high water, you got to go through it. It's imperative and essential that you in those kids' lives. It's imperative and essential that you do what you need to do in order to get through to those kids, because your very presence may be that takes your kids to the next level when they reach certain levels in their life that they feel as if it's too hard for them. Levels in their life that for whatever reason, their mother was unable to give them, their grandmother was unable to give them, their aunts was unable to give them, their uncles on their mother's side was unable to give them. Whoever else was in their lives prior to or after you weren't able to give it to them, and you are the only person to fill that void and get them to the next level. You never know when that may come about, and that's important. That's important that you don't miss it. It's important that you're in their lives on a regular basis, that you're active in their lives on a regular basis, active within the decision that goes on with them in schooling, active with the decision that goes on with them in camp, active with the decision that goes on with their living arrangements, active with whatever goes on in your kid's life. Because that very presence, your very presence may be the thing that takes them to higher heights. But it's also a backdoor to that. Because if you haven't gotten yourself together, your very presence could also be that same thing that tears them down and that wears them down. But not being present will almost certainly weigh on them. I promise you when I say so. Not being present will weigh on your kids in a manner that you could not possibly understand, or that you may have understood because you went through that same trauma. And the thing is, if you did go through the same trauma, if you did experience that same thing, living in one parent household, not having your father around or not having your mother around, then you absolutely should understand what it's like to not be in your kid, what it's like to not have a father figure in your life. That void that it burns in you. And trust me, it burned deep. It burns deep. Women, you can't always sit here and think maybe everybody gonna jump through every hoop and hurdle that you set forth because you feel as if you hold the rings. This is not a circus. This is not a performing arts studio. This is not an interview. If you deem that man worthy, when you open your legs to him, when you open your heart to him, or whatever the fuck else you open up to him, you should have realized and understand or interpret the consequences that came behind that unprotected sex that you all had. And sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes it could be a drunk outing. Sometimes it could be a one night. Sometimes it could be an entire relationship that we was in that for whatever reason it went sour. Regardless of which way it went. Sometimes you could have been married and for whatever reason things went the wrong way. Regardless of how things transpired and how they may have come about, you have an absolute responsibility and duty to your kids as well. And I'm talking to the lady. And that responsibility and duty to your kids is not only you being their protector, not only you being their provider, but allowing their father to be in their lives and allowing their father to have the opportunities to do the same thing. And fathers, whether or not she gives you the opportunity, because that's one thing. You a man. Do man shit. Ain't no whether or not she gives you. There is no whether or not she gives you the opportunity. If the opportunity isn't given, then you take it. If the opportunity isn't given, then you take it. Now, I'm not saying you go out here with a red van and go throw your kids in the back of a van and ride them across state and things of that nature. You got an Amber Alert out on you. No. That's not what I'm saying, fellas. That's not what I'm saying by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm saying is you take whatever avenues you need to take in order for you to, whatever legal entanglements you need to, whatever legal advice you need to get, whatever legal entanglements you need to, or legal procedures you need to take to get things situated with your kids. Do what needs to be done in order for you to get your kids with you, in order for you to be in your kids' lives, because it's important that you are. It's important that we are. We are building leaders and creating kings. We are building leaders and creating queens. We are building the future. We are establishing a future. We are manifesting with our very presence a greater future. If we dare to take on the challenge of being strong, powerful, capable men in our kids' lives. in our kids' lives. It's that important. It's that serious. It's that heavy. It's that necessary. You got to do whatever it is that it takes. You got to be whoever you need to be. You got to go wherever you need to go. You got to jump through whatever hoops, hurdles, and fire you need to. And that don't mean jump through her, meaning the mother, hoops, hurdles, and fires. That means whatever you got to get to. Whoever you got to get to. Whoever you got to go through. Whatever you got to go through. You put yourself through that to come out on the back end better for it, stronger for it, more powerful for it, more demanding for it, more commanding for it, more capable for it, more father for it. Can't sit around and let somebody that I know, a friend of mine, be a weak man, because that's exactly what you are. If whatever she was talking about is true, you are a weak man. Less than. And I'm not trying to hear none of that. She doing this, she doing that, she won't let me, she playing these games, you can permanently erratic. That's a little rough, and they're gonna take it away. You can permanently remove her from your way. You can permanently remove her from your way. Simply going to the courts. If that's what it takes. If for whatever reason she's putting too many obstacles in your way. She's putting too many stipulations on how you deal with your kid. And I'm not saying that this is what my homeboy and my friend, what they're going through. Isn't to say exactly what they're going through, but even if it is, you don't got to deal with that. You don't really even have to deal with her. It serve you both well if you put your petty differences aside and do what's best for them boys. It would serve you both to put your petty differences aside and do what's best for those boys. But if for whatever the reason you can't come to a mutual understanding, a mutual agreement on how to best serve those boys between you two, then take it to the courts and get it done. Do whatever it takes to get done. I'm going to speak even more on it. But right now I got business to take care of with regards to my family. And I'm going to stand on that. So we'll come back to it and speak a little more in depth on it. I definitely want to speak a little more in depth on it because it's something that we need to touch on because, well, that's a stigma that has been created in our community in terms of black men and being there in their fathers' lives, men in general, but they oftentimes put that on a lot of black men. And I'm telling you right now, I am here to tell you right now that stigma that has been put out there is really not as true as they say they are. Now, trust me, there are still some bum-ass fathers that are out here, some weak men, not necessarily wanting or intentionally wanting to be bum fathers or weak men, but they're not strong enough, they're not powerful enough, they're not determined enough to fight whatever fight is needed. And they give up far too easy. So they sit and allow whatever foolishness take place. They sit and allow their kids to grow up without them and choose to point the finger like some little boy in the 6th or 7th grade. You are a man. Do man shit. Live strong or die weak. Ain't no pressure. Until then, be a big dog, man. Like that wolf out. Warrior ordinance live forever. Black